Thanks, Mr. Kalidas. And actually, I met Mr. Kalidas many years ago. Yeah, I don't know. Yours, okay, you want to be young? Okay. No, so, and, I've been coming to this city for many years for work, but rarely do I get a chance to spend time like this informally and talk to people about the business that I love. So I'm very happy to be here, and thanks for inviting me, and thanks for being here, and I'll try and make this interesting. I won't make it very boring, because I know this is the time of the day when everyone wants to go home. So we'll keep it as informative, as exciting as I can. Yeah.
Sorry for that commercial break. Please switch off all your mobiles. The world can be without us for just about 45 minutes. Nothing will happen. So we don't want the distinguished speaker to be disturbed. So please switch it off, get unplugged. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Well, anyway, what I'm going to talk about in the next few minutes is all about conversations. And as you rightly said, switch the mobile off. It's a very difficult thing to do nowadays. In today's world, switching off the BlackBerry, switching off the mobile, switching off the internet. And a lot of people actually try and unravel the mystery of what this whole new conversation age is all about. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that to all of you today. So the presentation, as it says, is the conversation economy. And the conversation economy is where we are today. The scams that have been coming out like skeletons out of a closet over the last few weeks and months. It's not unique for a country like India to have scams, because we all know that we are one of the most corrupt markets in the world. We don't need to tell each other that. It's research. There's enough material to prove that that's the case. But when a scam happened 10 years ago, or 15 years ago, or even 5 years ago, it used to happen and disappear. If you notice now, that doesn't happen. It doesn't disappear. It doesn't die. And actually that's creating a lot of problem for the guys who are responsible for the scams, because suddenly they've started losing their jobs. Suddenly they've started have to resign. Suddenly they've got people protesting against them. And why is this happening? Is it because the country is different today? Yes, maybe. But the real reason is the conversation age has arrived. And the reason the conversation age has arrived is because we have media of all kinds, in all formats. You have people talking to each other on social media platforms, on Twitter, on SMS, on mobile, and all kinds of other things. So there's this huge campaign going on about stopping corruption, talking about people who are bad and all of that. And that actually has led to people looking at this more closely. This has actually led to the media looking at it more closely, and there's a whole lot of this introspection that's going on. And then from there, it's suddenly become a huge story. And from there, it's become a huge personal agenda that people have today, that they want to make sure that the corrupt are punished. And this is not happening because of any other reason, but because we're in a conversation age. And I took this example to start the evening, because this is something that's on everyone's minds today. We're all, every time I'm passing through in a corridor, I can hear people talking and whispering about the scams and all of that. But the fact is that the conversation age is driving all that. And in the next 30 or 40 minutes, I'll tell you how it's going to happen. So we'll try and cover the following. So we've broken this discussion into 4 parts. The first part is about rethinking marketing in this new environment, the conversation environment. What is the conversation environment? We'll talk about that. Empowering our customers. So if we are people working with other customers, so like we work with customers as PR people, or if there are people here from advertising or marketing, you all will work with customers or media companies. And some strategies and some examples of how conversations are going on today, right? And last of all, we'll talk about some implementation. So again, I'll give you some specific examples of companies who are using conversations to build their brand, companies who are using conversations to build their reputation, right? So we'll start with the first bit, which is actually the beginning of how conversations happen, right? So this is what's going on today in the world. This is a button. It's the reset button. Can you hear me even without the mic? Okay, I think it's probably a little better. Yeah. No, I'm fine. It's cool. I can actually talk better this way. So, if you look at this study, you will very clearly see that the biggest issue for most managers is what people think about them. Now, I don't know if you've heard of this gentleman called Lafley. He runs one of the most successful marketing companies called Procter & Gamble, which is an iconic company. And he himself has said that, what he's seeing is that people are changing perceptions of the sales of their products. So in the old days, what Procter & Gamble would do is they would put out an advertisement, they would do some PR, they would do an event, and they would push their products. But it's actually customers who are deciding the fate of organizations, the fate of brands, and the fate of politicians now. So that's the conversation age that we're in. There's a shift of trust. This whole thing I spoke about trust. People don't trust each other much anymore. And that's started happening over the last 10 years. People don't trust brands. People don't trust their neighbors. People don't trust their family. People don't trust anyone. And the reason that's happening is it's happening everywhere. It's happening in the world of business. It's happening, somebody I know there, Tiger Woods, nobody trusts him anymore. So very clearly after what he did, all the brands that he used to endorse, most of them deserted him. Some of them carried on with him, but some of them decided that it didn't make sense to be attached to somebody like Tiger Woods. You've got this guy on the left who's basically somebody in the American stock market after it crashed. So he's obviously not a happy man. And there's very clearly a lack of trust. There's also clearly a shift of power. Now, how is the shift of power happening? The customer, the person who consumes your product or brand, he or she is in the driver's seat now. Very clearly, when it comes to anything in this age, it is being driven by the opinions of people like us. So if today we don't feel like buying a product and we don't like it, and we go and tell our neighbors, or we go and have a conversation somewhere, then everyone else will stop buying it as well. Same way, if we say good things about it, it'll work. So you've got all these handheld devices, you've got the iPad now, you've got all kinds of ways of communicating with each other, and this is how people actually communicate. It's a very funny sight actually. If you go to airports nowadays, people don't talk to each other. Yeah, it's very weird. In the old days, if I was at an airport and I met someone like Mr. Kalidas, I would want to talk to him, but now I'm just doing my own thing, and he's probably got his own thing which he's holding on to, and everyone's got their own gadgets, and basically no one wants to talk to each other. So the power is very clearly changing, it's shifting, it's becoming a different world. And of course technology is changing. I mean, look at what's happened in this country in the last 10 years, 15 years. It's incredible. It took television 35 years to get to 50 million people. It took Facebook 9 months to get to 100 million people. And this year, Facebook has become a country, and it's become a very large country. So if Facebook were a country, it would be the world's third largest country. And it's crazy, and it's not going to end, because the way it's going, this is just going to get bigger and bigger. And this is what's going on, with all these. Facebook is just one, but there are hundreds and hundreds of ways of communicating in the new technology world. And then shift of geography. So everyone used to talk about the West being more powerful, America being more powerful. Everyone used to talk about the northern hemisphere being more powerful, which is Europe and countries like that. Now it's no longer the West and North. It's become South and East. So South and East is Brazil, China, India, Indonesia, Malaysia. That's South and East. So the world is South Africa, for example. So the world powers are moving away from the northern hemisphere and the West to the southern hemisphere and the east of the world. And that's how the new world is. And this new world order has these people in it. You don't see any Americans there. You don't see any people from Europe, or you don't see Brits. But basically, that's the new world order. And this is how it's going to be now for the next 25, 30, 40 years. Shift of values. People are becoming more conscious. People are becoming more sort of decisive in what they buy, what they consume. You don't just go and buy a product nowadays because you like the label. That was the easy way to advertise 50 years ago. But now people actually want to read. and then they'll say, okay, this one's got so much fat, not good for me. So, or this one's got too much of X, too much of Y, so you don't buy that product. So there's this whole new awareness going on, ethical consumption, which is people who want to buy things which they think will make a difference to somebody's life. It's moving from a world where everything was about me to a community. Everything is about us because everyone is constantly wired, everyone is constantly communicating with each other. So the world is changing. It's post-materialism. Now that doesn't mean we don't buy things anymore. It doesn't mean we don't consume. But it means that people have reached a point where they have enough of everything. I mean, look at India itself. I mean, I'm not talking about the second India. I mean, as you know, India is two Indias we all talk about. One is the India that we live in, and then there's the India where the really poor people live, which is a lot of people. But if you exclude that and talk about people like us, most of us own everything we need to own. I mean, today everyone has a car. 10 or 15 years ago, no one could imagine having a car because it was so difficult to get one. You had to wait for 5 years to get a scooter. Now you don't have to wait for even 5 minutes. You can just walk into a shop and buy one. And that's got to a point where everyone seems to have got everything they want. But that basically means that what do you do with your free time? Because you can't just keep going and buying things again and again because you own them. So what do you do in an age where it's not about yourself or an individual but a collective group of people? How do you make a difference? And then there's a shift in public relations, which is the business that I come from. It used to be called public relations, which is dealing with people. So it wasn't called anything else. But the difference is that I can officially call it people relations because today we are more worried about what people will think and not what my client would think. In the old days, everything was, oh, so how will my client react to something? How will I sell my client's car better? But now I have to think of whether the customer wants to buy that car and come up with a campaign which is meant for the customer and not to please a client.